Hi guys, welcome to my in-depth guide on a green Beastmaster deck. There was a request in my last video to make a sort of slower style green deck, and so this one can be quite strong competitively. So if you'd like me to showcase a specific archetype for next time, or a deck, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to get to those. So this deck is decent. It's not going to be a top tier deck, but it is quite strong on its own. It has a very good matchup, especially against red, because red is all about damage removal, and because of the high life stats in this deck, it can be very difficult to deal with. And also yellow rush, because of how many taunts are in the deck. So taunts are very good against yellow rush. So this deck specializes, of course, around Ancient Beastmaster. So when you summon a creature with 5 life or more, give it +1/+1. So all of these cards are kind of synergized around that. They've got high life stats in order to gain that buff. And the idea is to just kind of outvalue your opponent all throughout the game, up until late game, getting these Beastmasters down early and just getting so much value off of them. The other card you get value off of is Aurora. So when he dies, you give all creatures in your deck and hand +1/+1. So this is very powerful starting off. Getting Beastmaster and Aurora early on, as early as possible, is always what you want to do. And Aurora especially pairs nicely with Time of Legends. So you draw the top legend in your deck. So currently I have no other legends in this deck besides Aurora, so I will always draw Aurora off of this, giving me 2 chances to draw him early game. You'll also notice that this deck doesn't require any DLC, and I've done that specifically so beginners can craft this, but also I just think this is one of the strongest builds of Beastmaster. I don't think there are many DLC cards that are strong to fit in this deck, but I will talk about alternative cards, and there are some DLC cards that you might consider. But I'll talk about that a bit later. So, one of these cards in here, Feed the Forest. This card can help if your Auror's not getting traded off with your opponent's creatures. You get to destroy a friendly creature, gain Faeria equal to its life, and draw a card. So this can pop off your Aurora in a pinch, but the best targets for this are obviously going to be your high life creatures. The best one for sure being Oakling. So when Oakling dies, you give a random green creature in your hand, +5/+5. When you feed this, you gain Faeria equal to its life, so 5. So you discount the cost it took to play it, essentially giving you a +5/+5 buff for free, which is very powerful. This is the ideal feed target. Other ones you can use it on are Willow, because this kind of ramps up your Faeria. You spend 1 on the feed, 3 on the Willow, and then you gain 7, so you kind of net 3 Faeria in this way. Those are sort of the best targets there. Sometimes you might consider feeding a Tyrian Golem, or maybe if there's just a creature in an awkward spot on the board, you might want to feed a creature that's there. So, starting creatures for this deck, there's quite a few. We've got Willow, Beastmaster, Aurora, Oakling, sometimes Grove Guardian can count. It is 3 forests, so it's a little bit slower to get out, but it's not awful in an opener hand. And then of course Time of Legends can draw into Aurora as well. So quite a few starting creatures to draw into here, which makes your mulligan kind of interesting because, like I said, you want to get Beastmaster and Aurora really early on. So sometimes you may consider in your mulligan, even if you have a starting creature, you might consider doing a full mulligan just to get Beastmaster or Aurora. And making this consideration can take a little bit of thought, and you have to kind of know how the mulligan system works. So if you mulligan a card, let's say you have Feed the Forest in your opening hand, and I click on this to toss it away and get a new card in place of it. you will never see this Feed the Forest in your mulligan when you toss it away. So that's something to consider if you want to do a full mulligan for Beastmaster, because you could have, just for example, you could have 3 starting creatures in your opening hand. You could have Willow, Oakling, and let's say a Grove Guardian in your opener hand. And so if you toss all 3 of those away in hopes to get Beastmaster, your chances for getting a starting creature drop a lot, because now you're never going to see Willow, Oakling, or Grove Guardian at all in your mulligan. So it's a lot more likely that you'll get awful cards in the starting hand, like Command or Feed, something like that. So the best times to mulligan are if you've got these junk cards in hand. So let's say you've got Emperor's Command, Feed the Forest, and a Living Willow. I would be pretty comfortable with doing a full mulligan in that case, because I have still a lot of chance to draw into other starting creatures, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'll talk a little bit about alternative cards. If you are a new player starting off, this can be a reasonably easy deck to craft, since you do start off with a lot of green creatures, but you won't have all of these right off the bat, of course. So if you're looking for deck filler, anything with a high life stat really is good to include. Something with 5 life or greater at least. To trigger off Beastmaster, also Ancient Boar helps with the 5 life stat. So anything with 5 life is really good filler to put in here. And the best beefy cards out there would be the Deepwood Grizzly. It's just solid stats for the Faeria cost. Feral Kodama is okay. The 5 life gain when you attack a god can be quite useful, especially if you're against Burn. Like I said, this deck is pretty favorable against red, but sometimes your life total just gets dwindled down a little bit by the red spells, sorry. And you only have 2 Emperor's Commands as heals, so sometimes Feral Kodama can be a good include for that reason. Runin is a decent card. A lot of newer players think this is very strong, and she's not as strong as you may think at first. So you get to return Runin to your hand every time that she dies, but it only happens at the end of turn. So a lot of more skilled players will kind of leave Runin alone and let you trade off Runin on your turn. And that means that you won't get her back until the end of your turn, so you can't replay her even until the next turn. And then being a 5 cost, having to constantly replay her at 5, you always need a collector on board in order to do this. So it can be a little awkward sometimes, but she's definitely a decent card to have. One of the reasons she's not in this deck also is because of Time of Legends. I really only want this to draw into Aridin. But if you don't have Time of Legends, or if you don't have Aridin, these two come as a package. So if you don't have Aridin, I wouldn't run Time at all. And then in that case, you're free to include other legendaries that you may have, such as Runin. Zwardia is an interesting card if you have DLC. Again, I don't play her because of Time of Legends and Aridin, but she can be okay. She gains stats every time she teleports into a forest, so she can get quite out of hand. Another DLC card that's kind of interesting is Seek Shelter. So this card lets you discover a creature with taunt, becomes wild, and gains +0/+3. So Discover is a mechanic where you get shown 3 randomly generated cards and you get to pick one. So you can get some pretty nice cards off of this one, but it is also a little bit anti-synergy with Aridin, because it's not actually a creature while it's in your deck, so Aridin will not give this creature the buff, which is a little bit unfortunate. But if you're not running Aridin or Time, maybe you don't have these, maybe you have the DLC and you have Seek Shelter, this can be an interesting include because it will still synergize with Beastmaster and Ancient Boar as well. So without Aridin, I think this is a pretty decent include in the deck. Also at a 1 cost, Falcon Dive is kind of nice if you don't have Emperor's Command. It's sort of the reason that Emperor's Command is in this deck, is to give 1 damage pings to somewhere on the board. Since green doesn't have a lot of mobility, it does have a little bit with Grove Color, but you need to build the forests up to get these teleports going. So Falcon Dive's a nice include for that. And then Verdure and Forest is also a very good include in this deck, and he is in a lot of Beastmaster decks. The reason that I don't include him in this particular list is just because I have more efficient creatures, I feel. Investing 6 Faeria into just a large creature that doesn't do anything else can get punished sometimes, so it doesn't feel too great, but Verdure and Force is definitely a good include if you're looking for something else to put in here. There are some other sort of tech cards you can consider. Voice of Truth. You can return a creature to its original attack and life. So this card is interesting if you're facing a lot of stat buffs on ladder, maybe like Aurora's Disciple or something like that that just gains incredible amounts of stats, and you need something just to take it down back to its original attack and life. Good to note, you can also use this on your own creatures. So things such as Therian Golem. If this is trading off with a bunch of creatures, it gets down to like a low life stat, you can bring its life right back up to a healthy number using this Voice of Truth. So that's another interesting thing to note. Tiki Healer is kind of interesting because it does have the 5 life stat, so you can synergize it with Beastmaster and Ancient Boar. So it can be okay if you're facing against burn decks and you need that extra heal, but I feel that a better option is Feral Kodama in that case. This one can't collect Faeria, but it does have jump, so it can be a little bit more versatile than the Tiki Healer. The other thing is that if you are on full health, this is kind of a useless card. You're just spending 4 Faeria for a 2/5, so it's a little bit useless. Alright, but I'll talk about land placement now, so let's get into that. Land placement for this deck is pretty simple. Most of the time, you're just going to build off to both of these sides. So I'm going first, so I take the initiative in building my first forest. If he had gone first and decided to push down one particular side, I would, depends on my opening hand, but I want to protect my Beastmasters as much as possible. So if he does open, let's say to this side, then I'd want to go build my first forest to the opposite side of that, so that I could drop my Beastmaster on this side of the wells. And then, yeah, like I said, most of the time, after you've gone to this side, you're going to go to the other side, and just have your collections on both of these wells. And that way, you're playing a very defensive type of land placement, with the idea in mind that you're just dropping creatures, gaining buffs off of these Beastmasters, and as much value as you can. It is a good idea to try and detect what kind of deck your opponent's playing as soon as possible, because your game plan may change from this defensive setup. If you can tell that they're playing a greedier deck than yours, then it's pretty important that you push up one side instead, because you're not going to outvalue a greedier deck in the late game. You really need to get to the face and push as much damage as you can early on. But if it isn't, if you can tell that your deck is certainly greedier, or will get more value in the late game, then definitely just build these defensive lands, gain up value, protect your Beastmasters as much as possible, and outvalue your opponent in the late game. So one thing to note about Beastmaster is that it's a prime Frog Tosser target. Frog Tosser is a 4/4 that when it comes down, it fights a creature, so the stats, and it also produces a frog. So the stats line up very nicely for our opponent if he has Frog Tosser. So you want to play around Tosser as much as you can, and you can do that by, let's say you only have these 2 lands built, and there's a Ancient Beastmaster here. if you drop a creature right beside it, it means that Frog Tosser can still kill this, but it won't get the extra toad getting dropped on it. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. That's pretty much all you need to know. If it's a greedier deck, push up one side. If you're greedier, stick to both sides of the walls. So let's get into a sample match then, and see how to play this matchup. Alright, awful starting hand here, so we're just gonna throw away all of that. Do you have the Beastmaster? That's good to start off with. So I'll start going opposite side, since I would like my Beastmaster to be protected. Moonstrats. Oof, double Beastmaster. Okay, so this player likes green a lot. Usually seek the shelter. So I do go on 8, so I think I'm just going to put both of these Beastmasters down as collectors. We should be able to outvalue him then in the long game because of both of these. It's quite the powerful start. Oh my. That's not good. So we're not going to be able to deal with that unless we draw into Emperor's Command. So that's going to be a bit unfortunate. Wonder if he's running Tarim then in this list. I may even consider a double neutral instead of the Harvest. I do need to harvest once though to get this Grove Guardian down, so and it does have to be a forest. Okay, so this is the only way we can do it then. For this turn at least. Pretty unlikely we get to this in time. Swordfish over here. Interesting. Here's Time of Legends. That's very good. So I can't actually play the Aridin though, if I play Time. But I can Aridin feed it next turn. Just giving me a ton of value. And I think I'm just going to have to build up towards that. So we'll just keep building forests for now. I don't want to play this right now. I'd much rather play Aridin as a 5 cost. So in a lot of card games you want to use cards like this to thin your deck out so that, you know, there's one less card in your deck, so... but in Faeria, one Faeria can be quite a huge difference. Interesting. So I want to feed my Aridin. I also would love to feed the Oakling. But on the other hand, I don't have a good Oakling target, so I think feeding Aridin is okay. Yeah, I think I like that. I can also teleport this turn. So let's feed our Aridin. See what we draw. Interesting thing about this, Grove Color gets a buff up to 5 life, so he will get buffed by my Beastmasters. And I would like him to be able to fight things, so I'm going to put him here. So he gets the double buff from the 2 Beastmasters. We'll come up and clear the taunt. We may actually get to this. We'll see what happens, because he can easily just put a taunt down. But pretty nice we're up and aggressive in his face already. Kodama. Oh my. Yeah, so we're not going to be able to get to that. Would like an aggressive forest. So if he's playing Kodamas, he's got Tree of Everlife probably, and I definitely want attack paths to deal with that. So I think I really need an aggressive forest, and this is my one opportunity to get that. I might just put this here. He is going to be able to put something aggressive next turn, if he wants that. So it would be nice if I have something to deal with that. This becomes a 4/10. What can he drop? Oakfather? I'm going to put this aggressive. It's something scary he's got to deal with. And then maybe a Willow defensive? I'm not sure. Not sure how I feel about this. He can just maybe go this side with an aggressive creature. But this at least maybe stops him from pushing up with that. This is also nice because I target almost every space for tree. Only this space is left open. But he does have a taunt. So he could play tree and taunt. Oh. That's always such a lucky draw from Seek Shelter. Hold the line. So I don't need to worry about this at all. It can't do anything from here, it can only hit into the Willow. Do not like this. This could be an option to put another aggressive forest and play another golem. This will be a 4/8. see, now playing a forest means I'm not +1ing or drawing, which I kind of need to do at this point. I would like to draw for a Feed the Forest. I've already played one, but I think it's worth going for a draw. Taunt is kind of nice here too. If I taunt, that means he doesn't get the clear on this. Wait, he's got 7, 11. Yeah, I think I like this. This should be able to stay alive then, and then I'll have a clear next turn on these. Gonna block my collection. So he is playing a greedier deck, which does give him the advantage usually. We were very lucky getting these two Beastmasters to start, and Aridin. Teleport's very nice. We can teleport and Tyrian Golem, so I think I'm gonna clear this guy up. Could also get some favorable trades here. Really need to put on pressure though, if he's playing a greedy deck. So this happens no matter what. I think I'm gonna teleport the Willow. Let's draw for feed. Okay. Oh, I already played that. What am I thinking? Just drop this, or something to fight this. Yeah, so for some reason I thought this could attack again, but it doesn't matter either way. We have a clear on that. A little bit a waste of a teleport though. I think Oakling would have been a nicer trade there. Oak Father's a little spooky. So if you are seeing deck lists like this on ladder, Voice of Truth is a very good tech-in card to deal with cards like this. Because they're very greedy, but you can just drop this back down to a 6/6 with Voice of Truth. Yeah, I'm a little sad about using that teleport there. It would have been a much better tool for now. No beefy creatures, so I really need to draw. That's pretty nice. So I need this aggressive for sure. I can put this as a taunt to protect my face a bit. This will have 4 attack, which does give me the extra damage I need here. And push these guys up aggressive. Might keep this here just to defend with. But now I've got aggression on his face, so he might be putting stuff up here to defend. So maybe pushing this aggressive isn't so bad. I think that's fine. I'm gonna move here so we can't teleport this away and still hit my face. Voice of truth. Okay. So he had a voice of truth of his own. And an oak father.
You are tiny.
Alright, so this is just going face. I need to get as much face hits in as I can. I can draw for more feeds. Feed would be very nice. Having this taunt here is pretty nice as well. But this will step over, hit. Everything needs to go aggressive at this point. So I play Boar. It's a really cheap card. I have 2 Faeria in my hand still. So what do I need? I need 3 damage to finish this, right? So I may sacrifice a Beastmaster now. Just to get the clear on this. I think that's pretty reasonable. And I'm a little bit spooked about trees coming down. I think I'll move this across like this. Yeah, this seems okay. I do have a taunt in case I really need desperately something to defend here. But I like this aggression that I've built. Feed. Gives him very much Faeria. So he's probably looking for taunts. Because I do have lethal here, so he really needs a taunt. Or more voice of truth. Ooh, wow. Tethra. Right, he does have the Imperial Guards, that's true. So this will heal him up a bit. A lot of Oaklings. What does +1 do? Not a lot. I really, really want to draw into feed. It's going to be getting pretty likely. I have 2 left, so it's almost a 50-50. Nice. Unfortunately, it's very likely that this Oakling target hits another Oakling, but we'll see. Yeah. This is going to come in to clear this, and I'm going to take the clear on the Tethra, I think, while I have it. And then I can drop a taunt to protect him. He's going to have 1 life, so this has to hit here. I want this favorable trade while I can get it, and then Grove Guardian can protect my guys like this. And so I'll push Beastmaster up in hopes to get into double collection soon. If he drops something aggressive, Beastmaster can't deal with it anyways. There's not a lot I can do about that. Voice of Truth is fine. Gets me a nice trade. Oh no. That's okay. I am dealing, so I deal 14. He's on 3, and he only heals 5. Yeah, I think he recognizes that's it. Alright, so that worked pretty well. This is not your typical match. He was playing quite the greedy green deck, which I think he would normally be favored in this matchup, but because I had the 2 Beastmasters at the start, I was able to outvalue him, and the Aridin as well. I was able to outvalue him in the end. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just one last thing I wanted to point out was a Frog Tosser that I mentioned earlier, just to show what this creature is. So it requires 6 lands, 2 forests, 2 lakes, 2 wild, so any lands. And this creature is very brutal against your Beastmasters. So this is something you really want to play around, and like I was saying before, you want to protect all those land spots for this 2/2 frog that gets summoned in a random adjacent space when they target your Beastmasters. So just playing around it as much as possible, definitely something you want to consider and keep in mind. Alright, so if you guys, like I said in the start of the video, if you guys have an archetype you want me to try out, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to try what you guys want to see, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.